On the first day of geometry, the teacher pressed a ruler to the blackboard. "Squares," he said. "4 right angles. Order." Elias lifted his pencil and without planning drew a circle, soft, complete. A breath closing on paper. Laughter rose. The ruler tapped the desk like a gavel. "Again," the teacher said. "Square." Elias drew another circle and felt the room tilt. He grew up on a Danish coast where ropes were coiled, nets were round, and gulls turned in patient spirals. He saw circles everywhere, the moon in the kitchen window, the dial of his grandfather's radio, the ripple that widened when his stone missed the pond's skin. But school loved corners, desks aligned in rows, windows like stern frames, a blackboard where mistakes stood forever until erased. "Precision needs edges," said Mr. Hartman. He wasn't cruel, only convinced. Elias tried to be convinced too. He drew boxes until the pencil bit his finger. Still, the circle wanted out. "Zero, boy," someone whispered, and heat climbed his neck. One windy afternoon, he ducked into the watchmaker's shop, narrow, smelling of oil and old afternoons. Madame Sorensen peered through a lens that made one eye round and curious. "What shape do you prefer?" she asked. "Circle," he said before he could stop himself. "Of course," she nodded, tapping a tray of tiny gears. "This world turns. Squares can contain, circles can carry." She slid him a perfect round of glass. "Keep, for seeing." Through the lens, cobbles softened, and the canal moved like a living line. Elias sketched fairy rings that marked the water, lighthouse stairs that spiraled like shells, faces left open to breathe. His grandmother, dusted with flour, looked at the drawings. "Round is the shape of patience," she said. "You fold, you turn, you wait. It rises." Years turned. In Copenhagen, design studios worshipped the grid. "Grids make cities walkable," a professor said. "Grids make software scalable." Elias respected scaffolding, but his ideas kept bending. A playground with no corners for bullies to hide in, hospital corridors that looped so families could find one another, classrooms arranged in a circle so every voice had a path to the center. "Pretty," a classmate said. "Childish." "Impractical," another added. "Construction like straight lines." At night he biked to the harbor and watched the moon lift like a lantern. No ruler could press to it. Still, it ruled the tides. For his final project, he sketched a learning pavilion for his town, one round room with porthole windows, desks that slid to form rings or unfurl into arcs, a skylight that tracked the sun so light, moved like time you could see. He called it the Round. Students were invited to present to the city council. The hall was stern wood and right angles. Mr. Hartman sat in the second row, older, still exact. Elias set down his model and breathed. He spoke of belonging and attention. He cited small studies showing circular seating increases participation and reduces side chatter. He explained how the brain rewires around repeated patterns, myelin thickening like a road that gets easier to travel. "If we want collaboration," he said, "let's design for eye contact. If we want attention, let the room return us to each other." A counselor frowned at the budget. "Curved walls cost," she said. Another smiled kindly. "Could you simplify? Make the same thing, but square." The old blush rose. He felt years sharpening himself to fit. Then he remembered the watchmaker's lens, his grandmother's bread, the moon's patient pull. "Square rooms are efficient," he said. "Efficient isn't always effective. The goal isn't a tea to worship circles. It has to serve a different outcome. Courage to speak, the sense of being seen. Our brains learn by pattern. This room is a pattern you can feel." He paused. "Let me pilot first. No building, just chalk." That weekend, on cracked asphalt behind his former school, he tied string to a pencil and drew a white ring. He borrowed stools and invited a teacher, 10 children, and their curiosity. Wind smudged the line. He drew it again. They sat. At first there were jokes, feet on stools, a boy chasing the echo of his own laugh. Then, the shape began to hold. A shy girl counted the freckles on her fingers and spoke. The boy who blurted learned to wait because the circle contained him like a bowl. Someone sketched the canal. Someone else counted gulls. From a distance, Mr. Hartman stood as a square of shadow in the afternoon. When the session ended, the children traced the rim with their feet as if it were a path home. "Again next week?" the teacher asked, surprised by her own voice. "Again," Elias said. They repeated and adjusted. They measured what they could. Who spoke, how often, how long. How many times the line had to be redrawn because life scuffed it. Elias sent the council a short report with numbers and faces looking straight at the camera. That a month later, a tiny budget arrived for a tiny build. A light wooden platform, circular, modular, carried in parts and assembled in minutes in any park or schoolyard. They kept the name, The Round. Opening day, the sky was a clean blue coin. Children stepped onto the platform and sat like numbers on a clock that refused to hurry. Stories moved through them. A retired boatmaker taught knots. A nurse taught breathing. A coder taught loops. The local university sent a researcher with clipboards and words like distributed gaze. He mapped where eyes traveled in the circle and where they stalled in rows. He grinned at the data as if it had finally learned to speak. One evening, Mr. Hartman climbed onto the platform. He sat, hands folded. "I was certain," he said quietly. "Certainty is a comfortable room." He looked toward the harbor, where water kept drawing itself into circles no one could erase. "I wasn't wrong about order," he added. "Perhaps I was wrong about where order should live." Elias took a piece of chalk, drew a small square at the center of the platform, then drew a circle around it. "Both," he said. "Order in service of connection." School began in the round. Quieter hands rose. Fewer eyes fled to the floor. Children left the platform walking straighter, as if someone had returned a missing piece. Breakthrough didn't arrive with a trumpet. It arrived as a line you dare to draw again after wind and laughter try to wipe it away. When everyone asks for corners, ask what the corners are for. If they serve, keep them. If they don't, draw the shape that does. Let novelty wake attention. Let repetition lay the road. And when doubt knocks with a ruler in its hand, step onto your chalk line, breathe, and walk the round until the path remembers you. Remember, every story is only a beginning. Today's seeds of mindset will bloom into tomorrow's strength. Join us, subscribe, and let Mindset Stories rewire your mind one story